Before time, before the stars, before the first light ever touched the infinite void, there was only God. And in the fullness of his eternal glory, he was not alone. Around him, beings of incomprehensible light worshipped without ceasing. Angels of immeasurable power, creatures of holy fire, entities that the human mind could never comprehend. And among them all, there was one who shone brighter than any other. His name meant bearer of light. Lucifer. This is the story the Bible only hints at. The story of the most beautiful angel ever created, and how he became the most terrible creature in the universe. A story of pride, betrayal, war, and fall. A story that continues to this day and has not yet ended. Imagine heaven before the creation of earth. Not the sky you see when you look up, but the true heaven, the dimension where God dwells in his fullness. A place where colors are more vivid than anything human eyes have ever witnessed. Where the music never stops. Where the very atmosphere vibrates with the presence of the Almighty. In this place of indescribable glory, the angels had their functions. Seraphim with 6 wings flew around the throne, crying out, "Holy, holy, holy." Cherubim guarded the deepest mysteries of God. Archangels like Michael and Gabriel carried out missions of cosmic importance. But above all the worshipping angels, there was one who led the worship itself. Lucifer, the anointed cherub who covered the throne of God with his beauty. The prophet Ezekiel gives us a glimpse of who Lucifer was. He was the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. He had been in the Eden of God, not the earthly garden, but the heavenly Eden, the original paradise. His body was adorned with every precious stone: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, carbuncle, emerald. Settings and mountings were of gold, prepared on the day he was created. He was the anointed cherub who covers, established by God on the holy mountain. He walked among the stones of fire. Think about that for a moment. Lucifer was not just beautiful. He was the very definition of angelic beauty. When he appeared, the other angels fell into reverent silence. When he sang, heaven itself seemed more glorious. His voice was like 1,000 instruments playing in perfect harmony. Some scholars believe he had musical instruments literally built into his being. He was a living orchestra created for a single purpose: to magnify the glory of God. And he did it perfectly. For countless ages, Lucifer led the heavenly choirs in endless worship. Every note he sang was perfect. Every praise he offered was pure. He knew the ways of God like few others knew them. He walked on the stones of fire, the most sacred places in heaven, where only the holiest could tread. He was loved, honored, exalted, but he was never God. And that's when everything began to change. No one knows exactly when it happened. Time in heaven doesn't work like time on earth. But at some point, at some instant of eternity, something was born in Lucifer's heart. Something that had never existed before in all of creation. Something that would stain the universe forever. Pride. Ezekiel continues his account. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until iniquity was found in you. Think about the gravity of those words. In an absolutely perfect being, created directly by God, without any external evil influence, evil was born spontaneously. Pride did not come from outside, it arose from within. Lucifer looked at himself and for the first time liked what he saw more than the one who had created him. The text of Isaiah reveals the thoughts that began to consume his mind, 5 terrible declarations that echo through eternity. I will ascend to heaven. He wanted to go higher than his position allowed. Above the stars of God, I will exalt my throne. He wanted to rule over the other angels. I will sit on the Mount of Assembly in the far reaches of the north. He wanted to occupy the place of supreme authority. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. He wanted to transcend all limits. And finally, the most blasphemous declaration ever uttered, I will be like the Most High. I will be like the Most High, not I will serve the Most High, not I will worship the Most High, I will be. Lucifer didn't just want a better place in heaven, he wanted the throne, he wanted to be God. The most glorious creature in the universe decided that being the most glorious creature was not enough. He wanted to be the creator. But Lucifer was too intelligent to act alone. He knew he couldn't challenge God directly, at least not yet. First, he needed an army. And so began the most subtle and most destructive campaign in history. Lucifer began to sow seeds of doubt. Imagine the scene. A lesser angel finishes his turn of worship and steps away from the throne. Lucifer approaches, his face radiant with apparent kindness. You sang beautifully today, he says, so talented. It's a shame you always have to stand in the back row. The angel had never thought about that before. Positions never mattered in heaven, but now a seed was planted. Why was he in the back row? Didn't he deserve more? Lucifer repeated this strategy countless times. A whisper here, a suggestion there. Have you ever wondered why God needs so much worship? Would a truly perfect being need to be constantly praised? Why are there hierarchies in heaven? That doesn't seem very fair, does it? Have you noticed how God keeps certain knowledge only to himself? What is he hiding? Little by little, slowly, imperceptibly, the rebellion grew. 1/3 of the angels of heaven, think about that number. 1/3 of all celestial beings, creatures who had beheld the face of God, who knew his goodness firsthand, chose to follow Lucifer. Revelation tells us that the dragon's tail swept 1/3 of the stars from the sky and cast them to the earth. The stars are the angels, and they fell because they chose to fall. The moment Lucifer had been waiting for arrived. With an army of angels at his side, he finally had the courage to act. What happened next was the first war. Not a war on earth, a war in heaven. Revelation describes, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. Michael, the warrior archangel, led the forces loyal to God. His flaming sword cut through the darkness that the rebels had become. Gabriel sounded his trumpet, a sound so powerful it made dimensions tremble. And the faithful angels fought against those who had been their brothers, their friends, their companions in worship for incalculable ages. But this battle had a predetermined outcome. Lucifer, in all his power and glory, was still just a creature. And no creature can prevail against the Creator. The text of Revelation continues, and they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. In a single moment of divine judgment, Lucifer and all his followers were expelled. Jesus himself witnessed this event and told his disciples, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, like lightning. Instantaneous, irreversible, devastating, the most glorious created being in the universe was cast out of God's presence in a fraction of a second. And as he fell, something horrible happened. The beauty that God had given him began to corrupt. The light that emanated from his being began to darken. The precious jewels that adorned his body cracked and blackened. His magnificent wings twisted and transformed into leathery membranes of darkness. Isaiah describes the shock of this transformation. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. How you have been cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. The morning star became the prince of darkness. The bearer of light became the lord of shadows. Lucifer the glorious became Satan, the adversary. But the fall did not end with expulsion from heaven. That was only the beginning. For now Lucifer was in a place he had never known, outside the full presence of God. And in that place, he discovered something that intensified his hatred 1,000-fold. He discovered pain. In heaven there is no pain. There is no sorrow, there is no lack. God's presence fills every need, satisfies every desire, completes every void. But outside heaven, Lucifer experienced for the first time what it means to exist without the source of all goodness. And it was agonizing. Imagine a creature created to live in the most intense light, suddenly thrown into the deepest darkness. Imagine a being designed to dwell in fullness, now existing in emptiness. Every fiber of Lucifer's being cried out for the presence he had rejected. But it was too late. Tradition tells us of a place where Lucifer and his fallen angels were sent, a place of absolute darkness and spiritual torment, a place prepared for them, not originally for human beings. Jesus called it eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. But before being confined there definitively, Lucifer was given a measure of freedom, a freedom he would use to cause the greatest possible destruction. For it was at this moment that Lucifer discovered God's plan, a plan that had existed since before the foundation of the world, a plan that made Lucifer's corrupted blood boil with hatred. God was going to create something new, something Lucifer had never seen, a creature made in the image of God himself, a creature that would be loved in a special, unique, incomprehensible way, a creature called humanity. And more than that, God planned to give this creature what Lucifer most desired: intimate fellowship, personal relationship, divine sonship. Angels were servants, but humans would be sons. Angels worshipped from afar, but humans would dwell with God forever. Lucifer had tried to steal God's glory and failed, but now these worms of clay, these fragile and mortal creatures, would freely receive what he could never have. Lucifer's hatred found a new target. If he couldn't destroy God, he would destroy what God loved most. If he couldn't steal the throne, he would steal humanity. And so began the war that continues to this day. A war not for territory or resources, but for souls. A war that you are in the middle of, whether you realize it or not. God created the universe. Billions of galaxies came into being from His word. Stars were born and died in explosions of glory. And on a small planet, in a small solar system, in a small galaxy, God planted a garden, Eden. And in this garden he placed his most precious creatures, Adam and Eve, made from dust, but carrying the breath of God, mortal, but destined for eternity. Lucifer watched. With eyes now accustomed to darkness, he spied on the garden from a distance. He saw the love with which God treated these creatures. He heard the intimate conversations they had in the cool of the day. He noticed the tree in the center of the garden, the only thing forbidden, the only test of obedience, and a plan formed in his corrupted mind. The serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field. Why the serpent? Because it was beautiful. Before the curse, the serpent did not crawl. It was a magnificent creature, perhaps the most impressive in Eden. And Lucifer used it as a disguise. The same being who had been the most beautiful creature in heaven now possessed the most beautiful creature on earth. The irony was not lost on him. Did God really say? These were the first recorded words of Satan to humanity, not a direct denial, not a frontal attack, a question, a seed of doubt. The same strategy that had worked in heaven was now being used on earth. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Eve responded, but it was already too late. By engaging with the question, she had opened the door, and Lucifer walked through. You will certainly not die. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. You will be like God. The same lie that had destroyed Lucifer was now being offered to humanity. And they bit, literally. In that moment, the entire cosmos shuddered. Death entered the world. Separation from God became reality. The curse fell upon all creation, and Lucifer savored his first victory. He had not destroyed humanity, but he had done something almost as satisfying. He had separated them from God. The creatures who were meant to be sons now shared in his own condemnation. But God was not finished. In the midst of judgment, in the midst of the curse, in the midst of destruction, a promise was made. Speaking to the serpent, God said, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. A descendant of the woman would crush the serpent's head. Someone would come to undo what Lucifer had done. And so the long war began. From generation to generation, Lucifer tried to destroy the promised lineage. Cain killed Abel. Humanity became so corrupt that the flood came. The people of Israel were enslaved in Egypt. King Herod massacred the babies of Bethlehem. At every turn, Satan tried to prevent the promise from being fulfilled, but he failed. On a silent night in Bethlehem, a young virgin gave birth to a boy. Angels sang in heaven, the same angels who had fought against Lucifer in that ancient war. Shepherds came to worship. Wise men from the east brought gifts. And Satan watched with growing horror as the promise became flesh. Jesus, the Son of God, the promised descendant, God in human form. Lucifer had tried to be like God and fallen. Now God was becoming like man to redeem. The divine irony was perfect. Everything Satan had tried to steal, God was giving freely. Everything Satan had tried to destroy, God was restoring. For 40 days in the wilderness, Satan tempted Jesus. The same 3 temptations that had worked on Eve. Command these stones to become bread. Doubt God's provision. Throw yourself down. Test God's love. All this I will give you if you will bow down and worship me. Accept the adversary's offer, but Jesus resisted. Where Adam fell, Jesus stood. Where humanity failed, the Son of God conquered. And then came the cross, the moment Satan thought was his greatest victory, the Son of God, hanging between heaven and earth, bleeding, dying, apparently defeated. Lucifer must have savored every moment, every lash, every thorn, every nail. Finally, the promised descendant was being destroyed. But Satan did not understand. The cross was not God's defeat. It was his plan from the beginning. Through Jesus' death, the payment for sin was made. Through his blood, the separation was healed. Through his resurrection, death was defeated. And at that moment when Jesus proclaimed, "It is finished," Lucifer's entire strategy crumbled. Colossians tells us that on the cross, Jesus disarmed the principalities and powers and made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them. The serpent's head was crushed, not with an army, not with a battle, with sacrifice, with love, with grace, everything that Satan cannot comprehend. But the story is not over yet. Satan was defeated, but he has not yet been destroyed. He knows his time is short, and that makes him more dangerous than ever. Peter warns us, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. He can no longer steal our salvation, but he can steal our peace. He cannot take us from heaven, but he can make our life on earth a living hell. And so he continues his war, no longer hoping for victory, but seeking destruction. If he is going to fall, he wants to take as many souls with him as possible. If he is going to burn, he wants humanity to burn too. Every destroyed family is a small victory. Every divided church is a momentary consolation. Every lost soul is a bitter trophy. But Revelation reveals the end. The dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, will be cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are. And he will be tormented day and night forever and ever. The creature who wanted to be God will spend eternity as the most miserable being in existence. The morning star, who wanted to shine brighter than the sun, will dwell in the deepest darkness forever. And those who chose to follow him will share his fate, not because God hates them, but because they rejected the only way out. The cross of Christ is the door. Faith is the key. And all who enter are saved. But those who refuse, those who prefer their own way, those who, like Lucifer, say, I will be like God instead of your will be done, they will share eternity with the one who first uttered those words. So what does this story mean for you? It means there is a real war going on, not a metaphor, not a figure of speech, a spiritual battle that affects every aspect of your life. Every thought of doubt may be a seed planted by the enemy. Every temptation is a replay of Eden. Every time you hear, did God really say, you are hearing the voice of the serpent. But it also means that the victory has already been won. Jesus conquered, Satan lost, and all who are in Christ share in that victory. The same Bible that warns us about our adversary also assures us, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. Lucifer wanted to be like God through pride. We can be like God through humility. He tried to steal glory through rebellion. We receive glory through submission. He fell because he exalted himself. We rise because we humble ourselves. Everything Satan represents is the opposite of what God offers. The story of Lucifer is an eternal warning, a warning against pride that destroys, a warning against rebellion that condemns, a warning against the illusion that we can be our own gods. But it is also an invitation to choose differently, to bow where he rebelled, to trust where he doubted, to love where he hated. When you look at the night sky, remember that there was once a star that shone brighter than all the others, a star that decided shining was not enough, a star that fell. But also remember that the Creator of the stars became man to rescue you, and that one day those who follow him will shine like stars for eternity, not by their own light, but reflecting the glory of the one who never falls. The fall of Lucifer was the greatest tragedy of the created universe, but the cross of Christ is the greatest victory, and you are in the middle of this story. The question is not whether the war is real. The question is which side you are on. The serpent still whispers. The lion still roars. But the Lamb has already conquered. And one day, very soon, the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever. On that day, every knee will bow, including the knee of the one who once wanted to sit on the throne, including the knee of Lucifer, and finally, eternally, the war will end. Light will overcome darkness, love will overcome hatred, and God will be all in all. Until then, let us watch, let us pray, let us resist. Not with fear, but with faith, not with doubt, but with certainty. Because greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. And he who began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. The morning star has fallen, but the Son of Righteousness has risen, and his light will never go out.